Now, I know all of us have been suffering from beam withdrawals, as Mark Jones said at the end of that game tonight, but we are no longer going through those withdrawals because, yes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Nick Cattles here, Sactown Sports Kings recap show. Light the beam because the Kings are victorious tonight in overtime, 118-111 against the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota. And look, the first thing that I want to talk about here is the fact that this is mission accomplished. It's mission accomplished because you have split in Minnesota. And Rami and I went through this road trip last week on Cattles and Rami, and you're looking at a 7-game, 11-day road trip. And I said, if you finish 4-3, you feel pretty decent about it. Now, Rami has said 5-2. I know our friend Deuce with Deuce and Mo in the midday also said 5-2. I looked at this 7-game road trip and said to myself, if you could get 4 wins out of these 7 games, this late in the first half of the season, guys are getting tired, right? You're getting close to the All-Star break. You've got all the trade deadline stuff that's just lingering and hovering over your head. To win 4 games out of 7 on an 11-day trip, it would be gigantic. It would be absolutely gigantic for this team. And so when we were breaking it down game by game, I said, take a split in Minnesota. If you split in Minnesota, you're off to a good start. We know what happened on Saturday night. Unfortunately, they weren't able to win. Bad shooting, and you had D'Angelo Russell's first half and Anthony Edwards in the second half. But you come back tonight and you show some of that fight, that grit, that competitiveness that you've shown this year. And now you look at it, you walk away with the 118-111 win, mission accomplished. You split in Minnesota. Now you move forward to San Antonio with a winnable game on Wednesday night. So let's break this game down with all of you. Of course, you can join us on this chat like Javier just did, telling us all to light the beam. I'll leave that one up for a little bit because, yes, indeed, light the beam tonight on this Monday. You can plop your thoughts in that chat window as we go along here during this post game. This is a community. You're all welcomed in by Sactown Sports and yours truly, Nick Cattles, here tonight. So you split in Minnesota, mission accomplished. Let's talk about how in the world did the Kings win this game? The biggest thing to me, the biggest aspect of this game tonight was the Kings' ability to play well enough without Domas. We've talked about this for a long time throughout this season, right? It has been apparent the last couple of months that when Domas is not in the game, this offense struggles, they get stagnant, and they have some bad minutes. And I thought to start in this third quarter, right, Domas picks up a foul. So Domas picks up his 4th foul. He has to sit down in the third quarter. There's, a lot of time left. There's 7 minutes left. 7 minutes left in the third quarter, and Domas has to sit in foul trouble. Metu comes in. So there's 7 minutes left in the third quarter. You're down by 7. So 7 minutes left. You're down by 7. Domas has to sit with his 4th foul. And I was sitting there saying to myself, man, the Kings have to win these minutes. If the Kings can win these minutes, they have a chance to win this game. And that's precisely what they did. Domas sat for 5.5 minutes in that third quarter, right? So he sits down with about 7 minutes left. He sits down for 5 minutes and 30 seconds. And the Kings, during that 5.5-minute stretch, they actually outscored the Timberwolves 17-11. So Domas in foul trouble. You're down by 7 points. 7 minutes left in the third quarter. This really is the point in the game where you're teetering. If you don't do your job, if you don't take care of business, you could end up being down by 10, 12, 15 points heading into the fourth quarter. But that's not what happened. That is not what happened. Guys stepped up. They outscored the Timberwolves 17-11 while Domas is sitting for 5.5 minutes in foul trouble. And you get to go into that fourth quarter only down by 3. You're down by 3, 81-78. That does not happen if you lose those Domas minutes on the bench there. If you lose those minutes while he's sitting on the bench, again, you're down by 10, you're down by 12. Who knows how much you're down? But you win those minutes. You win those minutes. And then you go into the overtime. And yes, we'll get into the officiating a little bit because we have to, because it was atrocious tonight. I'm not one of those guys. You all know me by now. If I don't think the officiating got in the way, I don't talk about it much. I will tell you I don't agree with you. Tonight, officiating got in the way. We'll get to that in due time. But when you look at what happened, Not only that 5.5-minute stretch in the third quarter that you outscored those guys 17-11, you also have to play overtime without Domas because he fouls out. So you have that 5.5-minute stretch without Domas in the third. Then you have the overtime without Domas for 10.5 minutes. For 10.5 minutes in the second half in overtime, you played without Domas on the floor. And over that time of the 10.5 minutes, you outscored Minnesota. You outscored Minnesota by 13 points. 10.5 minutes without Domas, and you outscored the Timberwolves by 13 points. You win by 7. That's the game. The ability to win without Domas in the third quarter and in overtime. Overtime, you had Trey Lyles knock down a big three. Then he had a three-point play with the dunk, right? Taking it to the bucket. You had Keegan Murray knocking down a big-time three. Both of those threes from Lyles and Murray off of Malik Monk assists. Monk did a great job in that OT, hitting the paint, spraying out to the corners, finding the open man for three, bottom. That's what happens. That's good basketball. Foxy, of course, stepped up because why wouldn't he? He's De'Aaron Fox. 10.5 minutes without Domas between the third quarter and overtime. You outscored the Timberwolves by 13. A lot of guys made plays tonight. Let's talk about De'Aaron Fox because, yes, he indeed had a big night. And it was weird. On Saturday, we all watched the game, right? First 3 quarters, it seemed like Foxy just didn't have his legs. Seemed like he wasn't engaged. Katie talked about how he looked tired or he might be tired. And I thought the same thing. Like, why is D Fox not having that energy, right? He's not embracing this moment right now on Saturday. And then all of a sudden, in the fourth freaking quarter, De'Aaron Fox takes over. I think he scored, 21 points in the fourth on Saturday? And it was mind-numbing to me because I'm trying to figure out, okay, why in the world the first 3 quarters does Fox look like he has nothing in the tank? And then the fourth quarter, all of a sudden, he turns on the Jets and he's a different guy. Tonight, he did not do that. Tonight, he came out in the first quarter. He was aggressive. He was aggressive all night long. He finishes with 32 points. He had 5 rebounds. He had 4 assists. And here's a key number for Foxy tonight. He only had 2 turnovers. 2 turnovers. And he played 41 minutes. Only turning the basketball over twice in 41 minutes. I will take that every single night this season. 41 minutes. Only 2 turnovers, made a lot of smart basketball decisions. Again, was aggressive all night. He took 27 shots. He took 27 shots tonight. 27 field goal attempts is an astronomical number, but it didn't feel like he was taking too many bad shots, right? It didn't feel like he was forcing too much. A couple of times I thought he took some quickies. I thought he forced a couple times. But overall, man, you can't complain. 41 minutes. I don't think he rushed too much. I don't think he tried to do too much. De'Aaron Fox was fabulous tonight. Again, with the officiating, we'll get to it more in depth in a few minutes. Only 5 free throws for De'Aaron Fox. Fox took 27 shots. A lot of them were in the paint. I've got to pull up how many threes he took tonight. But a lot of those shots in the paint, out of 27 shots, and my man gets 5 free throws. He only took 4 threes. And he knocked down 2 of them, 2 for 4 from 3. So he took 23 shots inside three-point land, and he ended up with 5 free throws. Fugazi. It's ridiculous. I'm not having it. Not having it with the officiating tonight. Luckily, fortunately, the Kings won because if they didn't, this recap show would have been me just throwing furniture on my camera and you guys probably laughing or throwing furniture alongside me because that was just hideous. Absolutely hideous. Let's talk about a couple of guys off the bench. Let's start with Caius. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Trey Lyles, MVP of this game. Sabonis fouled out. He stepped up 100%. Trey Lyles. How many times do we need to see Trey Lyles step up, man? When, there's been stretches where he doesn't play for a couple of weeks. He goes out there, he scores buckets, he helps you win a game. Then tonight, no Domas. He's looking at all 5 minutes in overtime, having to defend Gobert, having to deal with that size. And Lyles goes in and he knocks down a big 3 in the corner. He has that drive, dunk, and 1. That was a big time play. And I thought Mark and Katie did a great job of discussing this in the OT. The one good thing about Lyles coming in for that overtime was the fact that you could kind of take Rudy out of the paint defensively. And you saw the Kings attack with some pick and roll a lot. And you saw the Kings attack the Gobert matchup, right? They were getting the switch off the action, and they would have Lyles on Gobert. They would have, Foxy on Gobert. And so they utilized the matchups to their advantage because they had Lyles. They went small. They had small ball 5 out there, and they put Gobert in that Timberwolves defense in a very, very difficult situation that they're not used to. That was a big difference in that overtime. The ability to go small and force Gobert to feel like kind of weird, fish out of water on the court for that overtime is what Gobert looked like to me defensively. Let's talk about Malik Monk. I've criticized Malik an awful lot the past couple of months, and frankly, he's deserved it. He's been terrible from three-point land. I think his shot selection has been very questionable, but tonight we saw the good Monk, and we've seen the good Monk from time to time over the past 2-3 weeks. This was good Monk tonight. Malik Monk, 19 points, but it's not just the points. It's not just the counting stats with Malik. It's how he's getting those points. It's how he's approaching the game. And what I really, really liked by Malik tonight was that he wasn't over-reliant on the three. He only took 2 threes tonight. Fox and Monk combined for only 6 three-pointer attempts. So when you look at, Monk, he was 9 of 14. He finishes with 19 points. All 9 of those buckets were inside the three-point line. I thought Monk was very aggressive. I thought Monk got out and transitioned a couple of times. I thought Malik did a fantastic job hitting the paint, and whether he was going up to try to finish at the bucket or he was finding teammates like he did in overtime, a number of different occasions where he hit the paint and he sprayed the basketball out. I thought Malik played a very, very smart basketball game tonight. His shot selection was good. He had 5 assists. He was showing some effort and engaging on defense. He had 3 steals defensively. It was a very good night for Malik Monk. It was also a very good night for the bench. And that's because of the 2 guys we just talked about, Lyles and Monk. Lyles and Monk gave you, 30 points off the bench tonight? And this bench has been very polarizing. We've talked about it a lot on Cattles and Rami Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 now, 4-hour show, 2 to 6 on Sactown Sports. And we've talked about this bench. They've been hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. They will go games where they can't score. They can't do much of anything effectively. And then they'll have games like this. You go back to the homestand, right, that we just got through. And you had the bad game against the Sixers when the bench was terrible. Then you had the following game when they were really good. I think it was against Memphis. And then they finish up on Wednesday night. Again, the bench did not show up. They've been so up and down. And bench guys, by nature are not super consistent. That's why that they're bench guys. But this bench has been especially up and down. Tonight they were up. And it's a direct correlation to Monk's minutes and Lyles' minutes. The bench scored 45 points tonight. 45 points from the bench. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I apologize to Case. Everybody gets it wrong. Case Kajani, I apologize to you. It is Case. Christy H. with a very simple message to all of us. Noise. Yes. Noise. And of course, Christy also mentioned the refs, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes. I think there's a lot of things that we need to talk about that are positive here tonight before we absolutely dump on the refs, which I will do in a few minutes. So the bench was great. Monk and Lyles especially. Fox was great. Domas was good. He had to deal with foul trouble. I felt like a lot of this game he couldn't get into a rhythm because of that foul trouble. I thought especially in the fourth quarter, he had to play not as aggressively or physically as he usually does because of the foul situation that he was thrown into. So it was a little bit of a off and on night for Domas, but he still finished with, 17-13? He finishes with 17 points, 13 rebounds, only 1 assist. I'm not too freaked out about the assists. I think a lot of that is because guys just weren't making shots. In the first half, the Kings shot 1 of 14 from 3. I tweeted at Nick C Radio. If you want to follow me, it's at Nick C Radio. I tweeted after the first half was done, hey, look, man, Kings 1 of 14 from 3, only down by 2. You have to feel good about that. So I don't think it's because Domas wasn't getting the basketball enough. I don't think it was because they were, not finding the open man enough. When you go 1 of 14 from 3, it's going to be pretty tough to rack up assists. So Sabonis only had 1 assist tonight. That inside-outside action is not going to be as effective. Kevin Huerter had a really rough night. I thought he was pretty bad. And, only 22 minutes. Only 22 minutes for Kevin Huerter, who finished with 3 points. He was a -7 on plus-minus box. And, it's obvious. Coach Brown felt the same. Coach Brown went away from Huerter. He only got 22 minutes. So Coach Brown obviously felt that Huerter did not have it tonight, and he didn't. You know who did have it? Keegan Murray. As my headphones fall off. Yes, Keegan Murray had it tonight. 13 and 13. Here's what I love about Keegan. There was a conversation to Keegan from this staff. And the idea was, hey, Keegan, look, knocking down threes is great, man, but you got to do some things differently. You've got to cut a little more. You've got to take it to the basket a little more. You've got to get out and transition a little more. And most importantly, you have to rebound. And I remember through the first couple of months this season on the show, Cattles and Rami, I once looked up the statistics, and Keegan had like 1 game in double-digit rebounds. Like he wasn't rebounding the ball. And the dude is 6'7", 6'8". He's got a pretty good frame to him. And he had way too many games when it was like, 3 rebounds, 4 rebounds. Recently, over the past few weeks, Keegan has made a commitment to the glass. And tonight, he showed it again. 13 points from Keegan, but he had 13 rebounds. He was 5 of 12 from the field. He was 3 of 8 from 3, but 13 rebounds from Keegan Murray, and 6 of those were offensive rebounds. That is not giving up on the possession. It's not giving up on the basketball. It's obviously keeping offensive opportunities alive for your team. 6 offensive rebounds from Keegan Murray. That is a tremendous effort. Keegan had 6 offensive rebounds tonight. The rest of the team had 4. So Keegan had 6 of the 10 offensive rebounds in tonight's game. That is just absolutely freaking tremendous. Tremendous. Minnesota had 8 offensive rebounds. So the Timberwolves, when you look at offensive rebounds, it was Timberwolves 8, Keegan 6. And that is just so big. We talk about Keegan diversifying his offensive portfolio, getting more opportunities to score buckets. One way to do that is to grab offensive rebounds, get putbacks, grab offensive rebounds, find teammates. Keegan is not only shooting the lights out from 3 for the last, month and a half, 2 months, he's also doing a lot of other little things at a higher level than he had been doing earlier in the season. And you know what that's called? We all know what it's called. It's called development. It's called figuring out the NBA. It's called getting better because you're learning things, and the coaching staff is working with you, and they're pounding it into your head. Get on the glass, get the rebounds. It's aggressiveness, Keegan. It's aggressiveness. And he has picked up the advice, and he has run with it. He has been great on the glass the last couple of weeks compared to what he was earlier in the season. Let's also talk about the Kings attacking the rim. This was a different game tonight. On Saturday, it was ebbs and flows offensively, and I thought it was clear watching the game against the Timberwolves on Saturday that if the Kings attacked the bucket, they were so much better offensively. It's when they kind of fell in love with the 3 and settled for the 3 that their offense dipped a little bit. Tonight, man, they went after the Timberwolves in the paint, after them. The Kings only shot 33s tonight. Jay Triano said it on our show, Cattles and Rami, 2-6, Monday through Friday. We had Coach Triano on the show earlier in the season. He said, we want 10 threes a quarter. We want 43s a game. Tonight, they shot only 33s. So they did not settle on the 3 ball, which is great. Not only that, they shot 30% from 3. So they shot 30% from 3. They were 9 for 30 from 3, and that's because they went 1 of 14 in the first half. So 1 of 14 in the first half from 3. Then they come back and they shoot 8 of 16 in the second half in overtime. So they shot 50% after halftime. They shot 7% before halftime. 7% in the first half, 50% in the second half, and overtime. And what the Kings did was, this hasn't happened often, I don't want you guys to, lose your minds or anything. I don't want you to grab your heart and freak out here. But the Kings won in the paint. I will say it again. The Kings won in the paint against a Rudy Gobert team, against a Rudy Gobert defense. The Kings scored 68 points in the paint tonight. 68 points. Remember when the Kings gave up like 70 points in the paint against the Lakers? And then they did it again. They gave up 70 points. And we said, man, how can you give up 70 points in the paint? Flip it around tonight. The Kings scored 68 points in the paint. They outscored the Timberwolves tonight in the paint 68-50. That is a different offensive approach. And I love it. I love it. They weren't over-reliant on the three. They weren't jacking up quick shots. They were taking it to the bucket. They were aggressive. 68 paint points plus 18 in the paint. 68-50 plus 18 in the paint. And just a tremendous, tremendous effort there. Just unbelievable. Let's address the 5,000-pound elephant in the room, because I just gave you all the reasons why the Kings won. A lot of fantastic stuff, right? Monk played well. Lyles played well off the bench. Keegan was very good tonight, 13 rebounds. They survived the 10.5 minutes without Domas. They outscored the Timberwolves over a 10.5-minute stretch without Domas by 13. Fox was fantastic. Mission accomplished, splitting the first two in Minnesota. You head to San Antonio for Wednesday night. Let's get to the 5,000-pound elephant in the room. This is from John Williams. What is the core reason refs are off so bad this season? Think they need one more? Just can't keep up with the speed of the game now. Speed of the game is an issue, I do think. I also think that you've had some turnover in officiating. This has happened in the NFL. The NFL has had a decent amount of turnover the past couple of years, and it is kicking them in the tuchus. NFL officiating is as bad as it's been, and I know it's never been great. It's been pretty bad the last couple of years, but the NFL officiating is so bad right now, and it's because of the turnover. The NBA's had some of that. The NBA has some newbies. They've got some young officials. That's a part of the problem. Another part of the problem, John, is something that you bring up, is the athleticism, the speed, the physicality, all of those things. They've also tried to, go back and forth a little bit in the NBA, where at times they allow defenders to defend and get physical. Other times they don't allow defenders to defend and get physical. It's an offensive league. You have more threes taken at any point now than have ever been taken. And I think the lack of consistency when it comes to driving and physicality again kind of makes it off and on for the refs. It's an inconsistent thing, because you've got teams jacking up 35 threes, 40 threes. So there's not as much driving. There's not as much ISO. There's not as much back to the basket. So it's almost like they can't get into a groove. There's also been the big time emphasis on traveling until tonight. There's been a big emphasis on traveling, which I think has kind of changed some of the games too, where we see this with the NBA all the time. They have these, we're going to emphasize these calls. We're going to emphasize those calls. And, it kind of gets the refs thinking. And I really honestly believe that when they emphasize certain calls, they de-emphasize other calls. So the officiating has been so inconsistent. I am not going to sit here and cry for the Lakers. If you want me to rip the Lakers, wait until tomorrow's show. I've got this one in the chamber. I am going to eviscerate LeBron James and the Lakers tomorrow. I can't wait. I've been salivating for the chance to absolutely destroy LeBron and his crying and whining on Saturday night, and how the NBA has embarrassingly responded. You got to be kidding me. I know Mr. All Read Everything, I think. Someone brought it up. I think it was Mr. All Read Everything talking about, the ref's going to, here he is, Mr. All Read Everything. I saw this earlier. Let's see if the NBA makes an apology for the atrocity of a missed call tonight. Yeah. Are they losing sleep tonight? Do you think the NBA is losing sleep tonight because they almost hosed the Kings once again? Do you think anybody is going to lose sleep tonight on that crew for missing the most obvious travel call in the history of the world? I mean, I know that the Kings have already been hosed on a non-travel call earlier this year. We played that game. We also played the game where Klay Thompson could foul a guy 17 times on one play and not one whistle is blown. We've played all these games with the officials, right? We've seen all of this crap. Is anybody going to lose sleep? What was it? Do you think it was gut wrenching when they missed the McDaniels travel, when everybody is staring at his feet and he's tap dancing? He looks like MC Hammer out there with the big pants going side to side. Nobody witnesses it. Mike Brown's like, travel? What's happening? What's going on here? What is this? What do we got? Domas, the whole bench is going this. I'm doing this. You're doing this. We're all doing this. Awful. Awful. Inexcusable to miss that call. Inexcusable. And in the bad officiating led to the Kings having to play that entire overtime without Domantas Sabonis. The Kings were up by 3 when McDaniels traveled. There was a little under 12 seconds left in that game. You got a 3-point lead. You call the travel. Now you're getting fouled. You're going to the free throw line, and you're most likely looking at a 2-possession game with about 9 seconds left. But instead, they missed the travel. McDaniels knocks down the 3. The Kings don't score in the final possession. Now you force overtime. The NBA is so fortunate that the Kings won this game tonight because off of what happened on Saturday and the entire ridiculousness that has played out since Saturday night on that missed call, it was obvious missed call. Obvious missed call. LeBron got fouled. Lakers should have won that game on Saturday night. But after that happened on Saturday night, imagine if the Kings lost tonight and you go back and you look at that obvious missed travel. It would have been so bad. So bad. I don't know if anything would have changed because all they do is they give you the last 2-minute report to let you know how much they screwed up. I don't know what that accomplishes. Hey, yeah, we messed up. We'll do a better job next time. Until the next time happens and they do an even worse job. The officiating stunk. McDaniels traveled. The Domas ticky-tack fouls. Give me a break. How many times do we have to sit here and watch these ticky-tack calls on Sabonis? First of all, the guy is literally one of the best players in the league this year. He's top 15, wherever you want to put him, top 20. He's got a legit chance of being an all-NBA guy this year. He's going to be in the All-Star game. And they're calling fouls on him like he's some rookie schlep who hasn't accomplished anything in the game. They're calling these ticky-tack moving screens. How many moving screens did I see Rudy Gobert set? How many moving screens did Gobert set tonight? At least a half a dozen. But all of a sudden they come up with that fakakta moving screen call on Domas. Look, Domas is physical. He's going to get his share of fouls. His 6th foul was an obvious one. He even knew it. He raised his hand. He knew it. But come on with these fouls. It's ridiculous. Stop calling ticky-tack stuff on Domas. Especially when you're not going to call it on the other end. Especially when you let Rudy Gobert do what he's doing. It's just nonsense. Call it even on both ends. Stop it. Stop the madness. But thankfully, the Kings did not lose tonight because of the terrible officiating. They won. And we have officially lit the beam. 118, 111. They split in Minnesota. As I said to start this thing, mission accomplished. Our guy, Mr. Allred, has bought 2 Kings hats. And if you listen to our show during the week, you know Mr. Allred everything. He doesn't necessarily bend over backwards to buy gear. And especially when you talk about the Kings. And he's gone out and he's purchased 2 hats. He has spent his hard-earned money on 2 hats. Means a lot. Means a lot, Mr. Allred everything. Fantastic stuff. 118, 111, victorious, light the beam. Remember, Nick Cattles brought you this victory tonight. We could talk about Lyles and we could talk about Monk. Listen. We brought the W tonight. We won this game tonight. Fantastic stuff. 118, 111. The Kings move on to San Antonio. They're 28-21 on the year. I do want to mention this here. Brindle Coat Sports brings up the defense won this game. You know, I thought defensively they were mostly good. They really were. And I thought especially in the second half. Like the first half, I thought the Timberwolves missed a lot of shots. First quarter, I thought the Wolves missed a lot of makeable shots, much like the Kings missed a lot of makeable shots in the game on Saturday. I thought the Timberwolves missed a number of open threes and a number of open shots in the first half, especially that first quarter. But in the second half, yes, they played better defensively. There's no doubt about that. And in overtime, we look at the Murray three and the Lyles three and the Lyles 3-point play and Malik hitting the paint and kicking it out for those threes, making the smart basketball decisions. Foxy again doing what he does in the fourth quarter and overtime. But there were also a couple of steals. There were a couple of deflections in that overtime, right? You had a couple of guys come up with steals with, Monk at one point, got his hand in there, got the basketball. Keegan Murray ended up also coming up with a big time deflection, which resulted in a steal. So you've got Keegan, you've got Monk making defensive plays in the overtime, which resulted in 2 steals, which are just gigantic swings in momentum. So yes, they did a good job defensively in this second half. I'm going to wrap this puppy up. We're 30 minutes in. I appreciate every single one of you for joining us. Again, we win tonight, 118, 111, 28 and 21 on the year. They split in Minnesota. You can listen to Cattles and Rami. We'll have a lot more on this game tomorrow, 2-6. Until then, put your head on the pillow and rest easy tonight because the beam was lit.